Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today marks the end of a weekend well spent for me on my end. I hope the same goes for you, and if not, just know that the week ahead has just as much good potential ahead of you. And with that said, I wanted to go ahead and provide a reading update with regard to Marcel Proust and Swann's Way in Search of Lost Time, Volume 1. This is a novel in 7 volumes and it's a hefty one. It's quite a beast. It has taken me a very long time to simply just get through volume 1, but I've jotted down some of my impressions and notes, and perhaps they could be of use to you as well. More than any other, this book, almost by default due to its length, avails itself of the communal nudge and nod, and having accountability buddies while reading proves fruitful, at least on my end. So I hope I could be an accountability buddy for you if you are deciding to embark on reading Proust for the first time, or perhaps need the nudge to move forward through the volumes. And with that in mind, I wanted to go ahead and share some of my thoughts about reading Proust. Like I said, full disclosure ahead of time, I am still incredibly slow-paced with this multi-volume journey. I think it's taken me more time to read this one first volume than the time people dedicate to reading the entire novel in the 7 parts that it does come with. But that's okay. I am human, and the worst thing we could do to ourselves is to read in order to reach some arbitrary deadline, rather than reading simply because we enjoy it or find it fruitful and useful for our personal development. I had encountered during my research, I think I've done more research on Proust and this book than I've actually spent time reading it, which is, I'm not sure if that's a good way of approaching things, but it has helped me move forward with the book. And in doing some research, I came across an article by Adam Gopnik, and he wrote, quote, "Everybody tries to climb Mount Proust, though many a stiff body is found on the lower slopes, with the other readers stepping over it gingerly." Now, I hope, it's my hope, let us not be those stiff bodies, and let's not be the ones stepping over them, gingerly or otherwise. So here are some of my thoughts up Mount Proust. I've reached Swann in Love, which is about, I want to say, maybe 2/3 of the book down. I've reached the passages on cattleyas, which I never knew were orchids. They're a type of orchid, and if you do have time, go ahead and browse Google for some images. They're wonderful. But I've reached the passages on cattleyas and love and Swann chasing after Odette in the midnight hour, and Botticelli's Zipporah, and on and on. And one common concern that I've encountered, one that friends have echoed, and one that I've fallen victim to because I end up reading Proust half asleep in bed mode, is that we tend to say, I keep falling asleep when I'm reading Proust. My response, my personal response when I'm feeling this way, or when I've encountered friends who voice this concern, my very first response is that we should read books that resonate with us. So life is too short to dedicate time to books you find personally boring or not worth your time. That's just a blanket statement. I think that should apply across the board to whatever it is you're reading. But first, figure out if the issue truly is your dislike of an author or a particular book, or instead if the issue lies with your distractions. The 9 out of 10 times I thought about abandoning Proust were due to nagging feelings such as, why am I reading about some random dude's dinner conversation when I have XYZ things to do on my plate? This then quickly translated into me going on a guilt trip, and a guilt trip for having picked up Proust, which then quickly became subsumed by distractions. All to say, I was reading Proust while distracted, when really he is meant to be read with the same mindset one approaches meditation. So once we've sort of dug through whether or not we're simply not enjoying a book or the writer, in this case Marcel Proust, and whether that's because we truly don't like it or because we're being distracted by other things, I think a good pointer that I've personally developed up Mount Proust is to read Proust as meditation. If you're falling asleep while reading Proust has nothing to do with Proust himself and everything to do with you, then follow through with Proust. He'll reward you by amplifying your lens of the past and present into a thing of enduring wonder, meaning you'll never look at asparagus or flowers or clouds or paintings the same way again. Not every sentence of his needs to be scrutinized, and I personally have a very difficult time dialing down criticism, but it's an exercise that's worthwhile. Instead, it's very nice and soothing to just be lulled into reflection mode when reading Proust, to get lost with him in the meandering sentences, and to trust that Proust won't leave you hanging and wandering for long, and will instead end up throwing a bucket of water upon you to wake you up to observations. And I wanted to share a few passages, 3 I believe, that were such lovely modes of reflection, and I hope they're the same for you, and perhaps they could soothe you the way they soothed me. The first one I wanted to share is on page 313. Let's see. This is a moment in in Swann's encounter with Odette when she decides to pour him some tea, and it reads, "She poured out Swann's tea, inquired, 'Lemon or cream?' and on his answering, 'Cream, please,' said to him with a laugh, 'A cloud.' And as he pronounced it excellent, 'You see, I know just how you like it.' This tea had indeed seemed to Swann, just as it seemed to her, something precious, and love has such a need to find some justification for itself, some guarantee of duration, in pleasures which without it would have no existence and must cease with its passing." There's another reflective one on page 328, and this is what I love about Proust. He manages to meander and just beat around the bush and give you random details that you'll never remember and that perhaps truly, objectively speaking, are very inconsequential. But then, bam, one sentence of his opens an entire world of splendor for the reader. So, page 328. This is context-wise when Swann goes looking for Odette and he can't seem to find her in all of Paris. And it reads, "As for him, he had ransacked the streets of Paris not because he supposed it possible that he should find her, but because it was too painful for him to abandon that attempt." And another one. "Perhaps it was to that hour of anguish that he owed the importance which Odette had since assumed in his life. Other people, as a rule, mean so little to us that when we have invested one of them with the power to cause us so much suffering or happiness, that person seems at once to belong to a different universe, is surrounded with poetry, makes of one's life a sort of stirring arena in which he or she will be more or less close to one." And this book is incredibly just ripe with such reflections and such food for thought. For me, I've noticed in my self-reflection and little updates to myself as I climb Mount Proust, that the hike through In Search of Lost Time has become a visual feast in large measure thanks to the visual companion book that I found highlighting the paintings that Proust mentions in the book. And as an added bonus, nowadays, since most museums have been closed, I guess most are reopening now, but still, if one is cautious to go to museums or simply has missed museums incredibly as I have, that I truly will settle for simply flipping through these pages, closing my eyes, and pretending I'm strolling through a museum. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful treat to have this accompany my reading experience. And it's lovely to note that Proust has the potential to become the writer who achieves through words what Monet the painter may have achieved through his brushstrokes. He's able to draw from within us these impressions when we perceive someone or something that eludes us at first, but we take that vulnerable first step forward anyway. That's, I think, what Proust somehow magically is able to capture with his words. And I've become so fascinated by the complementary nature of both these artists. What one did through writing, for example, and what one did through painting. My first impressions with each artist were the same, and I remember first encountering Monet in a museum in Paris, and my goodness, it carried with it the same feeling that I discover with Proust anew each time I open the book to read it. In Monet, it's the color he gave to his lilies, now adorning without distraction the museums in Paris. And in Proust, it's that same pastel tenderness, the same emotive color that he gives to his words. And it's such a pleasure to read him. So I hope at one point in your life, hopefully soon, hopefully now, you'll also be able to encounter Proust and his writing and will approach him with a feeling of awe and a feeling of enthusiasm and pleasure. I will continue to update my reading journey. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you get to stick around and catch some more of these updates along the way. In the meantime, I would love it if you shared some of your thoughts on Proust. I would love to read that, or if you have any pointers, any resources that you think might be beneficial to someone who's starting out Proust for the first time, or perhaps trying to move forward on the climb up Mount Proust. I hope we could be of help to one another. So with that said, I will catch you next time. And yeah, talk to you soon.